Hi, welcome back. It's your girl Tina from Tina B Fashions. Today I am working on a dress from a last minute client. So I did a mobile fitting for her. So I went to her house yesterday, so last night, about 7:30ish. Anyways, she's eloping and her dress is way too big. Like, she ordered it bigger because she's expecting a sweet baby boy, and she also expected that she would be a lot larger. Nowhere near that. So here is the dress. We are going, well, not we, I will be taking up the sides, have it pinned. So we're tapering the sides in because right now it looks very boxy on her, and she does have a beautiful waistline. So we're gonna do that on both sides. And also here, when she has it on, she has this much, I marked it with chalk, so she has this much gaping out from her back. So it's she had about 3 inches out, and when I essentially take that up, it's gonna pull in her front bodice. So we have a lot of work to do on this, and I'm meeting with her tomorrow to drop off her dress and have her try it on, see how it goes. But with that being said, I have today, right now, to get it done. It's gonna be kind of interesting to see. But the side seams, I had it pinned and marked of where I'm gonna stop the tailoring and where I'm going to go up here. I'm not gonna go too far into the sleeve because of course that would be additional charge, but I do want to take it up as much as possible for her. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to chalk my line a little bit better of where I am going to be taking this up. So when I release the pins, I'm going to release the pins, but I want to keep where I'm marking at because we don't have time in this essence for another fitting. There's no time. She leaves out to go to her destination, and that's it. Like, this is a one-time shot, and she understands that because, you know, it's last minute, but I still want a beautiful fit for her. So now that I have that pretty much chalked out, I can go ahead and release my pin mark because it's gonna show me exactly how much I'm taking up. I don't know if you can see it or not, but right here. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side because when she had it on, I went ahead and pinned both sides just to make sure it's uniform. And a lot of people are gonna be like, why am I not just taking it up in the back where the zipper is? I am taking it up in the zipper, but I'm doing it at the side seams because I want her dress to still be uniformed on her. So here we are, and I'm making my mark, tailoring it, and up here I don't want it tight underneath the arms. I don't want her to be uncomfortable, and she didn't need that much taken up anyways. So essentially I still want her to have room to breathe. Okay, they're gonna eat after the ceremony, so I don't want to like have her joking out. But I know this is gonna come up to that armpit, and I'll work down, and where it's curving back out here is where her beautiful baby bump is. So let's do that, and that's about right. Okay, so I kind of get that going. This, let's see, and you see, like, I'm working with 2 layers. So there's a chiffon layer, which is gonna have to be altered, and then there is the lining, and right here this seam is gonna be opened up because the chiffon layer and the skirt are attached to the bodice. So essentially this is quite a bit of work. We're gonna go in the inside and do our seam adjustments. All right, so I have that chalked. I don't know if you guys can see my little lines. Okay, and then the back is pretty good chalked. I'm gonna go over it a little bit more. What we're gonna do is essentially take all this up. Okay, we're gonna release the zipper, take it up here. Because we're taking it, we may need to shorten the zipper, but I'm gonna try to keep it as uniform as possible. It's gonna pull all this together for her, because that there's no way I could let her show up to her event with that much excess. All right, I'm gonna grab my seam ripper and we're gonna start there. I'm just gonna open everything up so I can just stitch. Okay, this looks more red. It's a deep wine color. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna release the side seams on both sides up to the point of where I'm taking it up. So we're gonna go move the chiffon, and not only are you gonna have to go through the chiffon, you're gonna have to go through the lining. Just here, we'll remove that. So I have my hand in the lining, and we're gonna find that side seam, which is right here. And I see here too that they did a top stitch. So I'm making notes of what I'm gonna have to redo or recreate in this sense, so we know. All right, here is our side seam. Okay, so that top stitch that they put in is holding elastic. We'll just make a note of that, because when we put this back together, we're gonna want to keep those elements in there. All right, we're gonna find the best way to just start ripping this apart. I hate to say it like that, but that is what we're doing. I'm gonna get in the seam and start opening this bad boy up. Okay, now I don't need to open it up all the way, I just need to open up where it is going to be taken up at. You're basically releasing it just enough. So there's a top stitch in here, so that's what I'm getting at first. The top stitch that stitches the skirt down. Okay. And from my notes, my alteration notes, I know I'm only doing approximately 1 inch on the front and 1 inch on the back, which is 2 inches total that I'm taking up on the sides at the waistline. So we're just getting this all open up, and there goes that elastic that was top stitched in here. And it looks like they only have that part on the front side of the bodice. So I'm going to try not to disturb that, because I can simply keep the elastic in place and just cut off what's not being used to avoid from releasing the elastic all the way around the waistband. Okay. So this is about 1 inch. I should have, yeah, 1 inch on the front and 1 inch on the back. This is about as far as I needed to go. I could take a measuring tape and verify, but I am pretty much aware of this. Let me just give y'all a zoom in. Okay, so now that I released that top stitch, I am going to release the serge edge, and I'm simply just going to get in there, rip that open. Oh, time consuming. So, and we're gonna release this. If you have a hard time releasing these stitches because they're really hard to see without distressing or doing runs, you can also do it from the outside of the skirt to get a better grip. So that's what I'm gonna do here. I know I released those, so I'm gonna find the seam and I'm gonna go flip it back over. And let's see. There's my outer skirt layer. And I'm going to go here. And see, I know that where I marked at and I released those top stitches is about right here. Excuse my children. So I'm going to open this up like here, because after I started releasing that top stitching, I could see where I need to go.
This is the last one.
All right. And we're just going to start opening this up. And you'll see that it's coming together. So once you get like through that, they sewed this pretty good. She ordered this dress online, and I told her the quality of this dress is really, really nice. It's not like a sheen quality, as they could say. So I mean, the stitching and everything is great. So it's a little hard to get in here just because they sewed the spot so many times. But we're gonna get it opened up, and once I get it going, I can just tear into that. There you go. So I kind of made my little hole, and I can stick my finger in it. So I'm gonna hold this spot, and now I'm gonna proceed from the inside. I'm just flipping it, flipping the lining. And see, my finger is through where I need to proceed taking it loose. But now I have a good starting point where I could slide that seam ripper in there. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Alrighty. We're getting there. Now the reason I am opening this up is so I can get to each layer that needs to be stitched and taken in. Of course, I am not going to, I'm not going to sew her lining to her chiffon layer. So this is separating those so I can address them as necessary. All right, that's pretty good going this way to the front. Now I'm gonna go to the back and open it up like the back side of the dress. Just releasing seams right now. Okay. And see, there's my chalk line right there. I'm gonna go a little past my chalk line because when I'm sewing, I am going to need to make sure I'm meeting those points. So here is my chalk line, and here. Okay, so that's as far as I need to open this way. Did I find my chalk line on this side? Let's see. I did. Same thing. So my chalk line for this is right here. I'll extend that, and the other part is right here. Right. So that's as far as I need to open it up. Here's the thing. So I will be sewing the lining by itself, and this is a simple serge, so we'll have to get thread for the serger. The chiffon by itself. So now that I have this part separated, I need to open up each individual. So this is the skirt, this is the bodice. I simply just opened up the seam between the skirt and the bodice. Now I need to open up between the chiffon and the lining, because all four parts are going to have to be equally taken up for this dress to look right. For it to look right and for it to fit. I mean, you can't, when you're doing gowns, you have to alter all layers. Okay. So here we are. Now, before I begin sewing, I'm gonna double check my needle that I have the correct needle in for chiffon and my lining. I'm just getting in there. I'm staying in the camera footage. Alright. And again, I'm going to where my chalk lines are. A little past my chalk line. Okay. There's my, I just hit my chalk line right there. And I went a little past it that way, and we're going to do the same on this side. And this is a skirt that I'm releasing. And then I'll do the same thing to the bodice. Okay, So here is my chalk line there. I essentially opened all that up. Now the bodice part, I'm gonna release the same thing. So you get in here, find a stitch to open this up. There we go. Alright. And there we go, separating. This black is the interfacing of the bodice to add a little structure. This dress does not have boning. If it did, I would essentially charge more than I am now.
Someone built it.
Yeah, your Theo built it. Alright. Excuse me. Yes. Alright, so I have released that. I have all my layers essentially released. So when I go to sew this and take this in, I could sew my lining by itself. I can sew the layer of the chiffon by itself, which that's here. I'll show you that. So I would flip the lining, and then I'll be able to get here, take in the chiffon by itself, and then I can sew those together, and I'm going to do the same thing with the bodice. Now the bodice, how I'm going to get in there is essentially flip it. So I'll go in between the layers. This is the armpit. Pull it down, and I'm going to get right in there and sew my layers. Alright, so now that this part is released, I'm going to go ahead and release the other side, and then I'll show you how I'm going to release the zipper. Okay, now that I have both of my side seams opened up, everything's released so I can get in there and go to my sewing machine. I'm going to go ahead and move to the back. Isn't this beautiful? Okay, pause to admire the beauty. Alright, now let me zoom you guys out or in. Oh yeah, let me zoom you out just a little bit so you guys can see where I'm at. Alright, now I'm at the back. Okay, here you could see that the zipper has just been top stitched inside the lining. We're gonna mess with just the top. This bottom part fits her great. It's the top that's bowing out. So we essentially need to get in between these layers, okay, to access the inside of the zipper. So all that's gonna be shifted. So my best option is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to release this top bodice the best that I can. This seems like a lot. It's quite a few. Alright. So I'm first inspecting how it's attached. So it's serged. It looks like they serged it individually on one side, the other side not individually. They serged it together. Why, I don't know. So we're going to release this part where the zipper is and work our way up. We start at this bottom, the base.
Mommy, you're missing the battery.
I know, I'm using it.
Where is it?
In my camera.
Where?
Inside the camera.
I found it one.
Yep.
Can you use it?
Okay.
Maybe I can put it here. Or maybe we could put it like this. Or maybe we could put it like this. Or this. Ta-da!
You guys get out. I'm filming. Okay, so right now from the zipper, I am releasing just the lining part, and I'm gonna do this on both sides because we're gonna have to tailor all this. All of it's gonna be retouched. We're gonna make note of how our zipper is sewed in because we're going to replicate that. Okay. And let's keep going. We're going all the way to the top because I have quite a few inches to take up on this back. Okay, and at the top, I'm going to release that. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this part, the zipper, all the way off. I'm going to work on one side first. So I'm going to take this off of the actual chiffon, the outer layer of the bodice. There you go. Now this is an invisible zipper, so we're making note of how close it is sewed. Okay, this is not a zipper to be exposed. So when we put this dress back together, you should not be able to see the zipper. Okay. If you can see the zipper, you need to redo it. It's not right. I'm gonna rip this out. Both sides. Now when I'm taking this part off, I only need to go as far as where I'm going to start taking in and tailoring the fit. So my chalk mark should show that. So I really only, I don't have to go, well, practically I am going all the way down on here. But if you weren't going all the way down, you wouldn't, I mean, necessarily have to release the whole entire zipper. Just enough. Oh, that stitch is pretty tight there. Let's see. Okay, I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to continue ripping apart the zipper, and I'm going to do both sides, and we'll be back. Okay, so here I have essentially removed one whole side of the zipper. So you have this clean, no zipper. Here it is. I'm going to go ahead and redo the other side, because what I mean is, I'll show you when we get there, but my chalks are very faint, and all I'm going to do is shift and I'll realign my chalk lines, and then I'm going to sew the zipper down prior to me cutting away the excess, okay, in case we need to realign anything. Now she's not having another fitting, but my chalk lines are pretty dead on, and I'm going to trust my chalk lines, my markings of when she had this on, to perfectly align this zipper where it needs to be. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and release the other side, and we'll show you the next step. Okay, now my zipper is completely removed. Okay, now I'm just not accessing. I am basically viewing what we have going on. Alright, when I get ready to reattach the zipper, a couple things you want to note. You're going to have to sew this lining from within between the layers. You could disturb all this, open it up. This is a waistline, go through there and do the zipper. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work on my zipper first before I do my side seams, because the holes that I opened up on my side seams I can use to access the lining of the zipper, if that makes sense. I can reattach the lining by flipping it this way through the hole. Okay, so I'm going to do zipper first and then side seams, because I'm going to take advantage that I already have an opening to access the inside of lining. If I did it reverse, say I did this, I sewed up my side seams, I would have to come here, reopen somewhere along here to access a spot to sew this lining. Or let's say I didn't want to do that, I could sit here and just hand base the lining to the zipper, but I'm gonna take advantage and do that. that route. All right, so now I have that settled, let's talk about where my zipper is gonna end up being. Essentially, we want the zipper to still reach the top, okay? We want it to reach the top. Here's my chalk line. It's very faint, probably hard for you guys to see, but it's there. I'm taking the zipper in quite a bit. So I want it to end up still at the top on my chalk line. And I'm going to pin this zipper in place up to where my chalk line is and where I'm going to be stitching. Okay. So here, you get that, and I'm only pinning it to my outer layer of fabric where my chiffon is. Okay, I'm not disturbing, I'm not even dealing with the lining right now. Okay, the lining is over here. Dealing with just the dress. And you want to do this once. You don't want to do it multiple times. Okay. And I still want my end point. So it's important to take your time, pin it. We're gonna pin this, but I'm on crunch time, so I don't have time to redo this over and over again. I'm pinning it to get an idea of where it's gonna be. See, I have all this laying flat, and it gets a little questionable up here. There's a little extra, so I'm gonna have to pull it down. This dress didn't have a hook and eye on it. I will be adding a hook and eye to compensate for the little extra fabric where the zipper is going to come up slightly short. Okay, there's going to be a spot and we're going to put a hook and eye there. We're pressed for time. You could essentially take the zipper apart, move it up, shift it up. Everything fits good. I don't want to disturb anything. Hook and eye is if this doesn't meet. It looks like it's gonna meet. So then we're gonna flip it over. We're gonna make sure that our chalk lines are right here. Okay, they're essentially covered. Here's the other spot down here we need to worry about. This part. So when we base this, we wanna make sure it is as flat as gold as it can. And this looks really, really good. Okay, we're gonna do this one side first, and then we'll come back and do the other side. But let me grab a needle and thread to start basting. Okay, so here I went ahead and just speeded it up. I'm just base stitching using the white thread, mainly white thread, so you guys can see it. You can use any colored thread because the stitches will be removed. You are just going in and doing like a run stitch to hold the invisible zipper in place. We're going to remove those pins so they're not in the way when we're using our zipper foot to get as close to the teeth as possible, because again, we don't want the zipper to show. We don't want to waste time restitching, unplucking to restitch to get it right. So we're going to do the same on here for both sides. And I'll show you that, and then we'll move on to the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how we're going to work on stitching this up. I'm just removing some of the dead threads because I don't want them to get caught up in the zipper. They're just the threads from when I took the zipper loose. And just make sure my track is clean because, you know, when you go to pull zippers up and down, anything can get caught, excess fabric, threads, and we don't want to jam the zipper. Kind of defeats the purpose. So I was just cleaning that up, and now I am pinning it to the other side of the outer layer of the bodice to go ahead and base that side in place as well. My kid distracted me here, but just to go ahead and get that set and prepped to move on to the sewing machine. Okay, here I'm just taking a moment to make sure that my top of the zipper on the neckline meets up. So one side of the zipper meeting up with the other side of the zipper to make it very uniformed and intentional, because it will not look right if she goes to put this dress on and one side of the zipper is higher than the other. It would throw the whole dress off, and we don't have time to hope and wish. We need to make sure this is right, because she's not getting another fitting. It is very obvious when you do have one side of the zipper higher than the other. It looks tacky. So you want to go ahead and make sure that that's fixed. So now that I have that worked out, I am basting the other side. We are still only working on the outer layer of the bodice. So we're going to sew that first and then attach the lining to it. And there's a way when you have it flat that you'll be able to align the lining and take off the same amount. So here I'm just making sure that everything looks great. Okay, here I'm just going ahead and swapping out my feet. I'm just adding the zipper foot. This is going to help me sew very close to those teeth on the zipper, on the invisible zipper, and get exactly where it needs to be so the closure looks invisible, so you don't see the zipper. Of course, and before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and wind a bobbin. Obviously, this is not the correct way. You really take the thread and you push it through the little hole of your bobbin and then wind it. Either way, this is just how I do it when I am moving fast. Still works. So we're going to get the machine all set up and threaded and ready to stitch. Okay, I'm just going ahead and threading my needle. You'll see that, and then I'll pop in my bobbin. Just getting things set up. Camera will focus. I don't know. This camera is just like in and out. So bear with me. Okay, so let's begin. I'm just going to start sewing from the top of the dress and then working my way down. Here I am just getting it positioned. Don't worry about that tag. We'll get to that tag later on in this video, and I'll show you how to adjust that. I'm just lining up, and I'm going to make sure that my needle goes in the little, I don't know, zipper canal of the invisible zipper. So you push the teeth over to your left, or however you sew, but push the teeth out of the way and sew in that little ditch without stitching on the zipper. So that's all I'm doing right here, and I'm going to do the same to both sides. See, and I'm just pausing, make sure, because I remember I only want to stitch this one time, so I want it to go smooth and get it right. And then after this part, we'll move on to releasing those basting stitches and cutting away the extra seam allowance. I would let you hear the sounds of the sewing machine, but unfortunately while I was filming, I was running off the mouth on the phone. So that's why you don't hear this machine. But I want you guys see, I'm coming up on where the bodice meets the waist. And remember, I did not remove the zipper below the waist because everything fit her there. So I am just making sure there's a smooth transition to the original stitches of the garment. You got that. And then we're going to just flip it over, and you should barely see the teeth of your zipper, just like that. That looks really, really good. I'm just looking over it to make sure I didn't go too far one way or the other. Now, when this other side is complete, the fabric will hide the zipper, as long as the opposite side is done correctly. So here I think I noticed a spot that I wanted to touch up, and I'm going back just to sew a little bit closer. I'm making sure everything else is out the way. That's good to like double check, because now will be a good time to correct it before you attach the lining. So I'm barely going to take a few stitches here and make sure, there you go, everything's close, and then I'll recheck it to just ensure everything's right. Let's see. Well, nope, on here I'm actually stitching the opposite side. I thought I had messed up, but I didn't. I don't know. So, because I'm like, why am I going all the way down again? This is the other side of the zipper. So I didn't mess up on the other one, like I assumed. But right now, you do want to double check, make sure you're sewing close enough to those. Here's a close-up. You'll see how I'm pushing the zipper, the teeth over, out the way. And right where the tape and the teeth meet is where I'm stitching for an invisible. Most of the time how people get this wrong is that they don't roll the teeth over and out the way, and they just sew near it, and that's how you get your invisible invisible zippers showing through. See how I have it bunching? I'm going to release a couple stitches just so it lays flat. There we go. And see, rolling that teeth out of the way. Excuse my hand and knuckle. But you get the idea. Okay, so the zipper is looking really, really good. I'm just going to continue pressing this, but it's laying lovely. This is looking good. I gotta finish this. This will be cleaned up when I attach that lining on there, and then I'll see how far off it is, because if it needs a hook and eye, I can add that. But looking so great. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to do the lining part, which is going to look a little tedious on camera, but that's okay. Okay, so I have already removed one of my basting stitches. I'm going to go ahead and remove another. And I'm essentially just going to pull it straight out. Okay, comes out really nicely. This I'm going to trim away, but before trimming away, I'm going to go ahead and press. Now, if you're doing multiple fittings, I would not suggest trimming all this away right away, unless you are completely sure that it's going to fit your client. Okay? Because you won't be able to let it out. Now, if you knew that you would approximately be within a certain gauge, like you know that you could leave yourself some seam allowance, and I'll show you that real quick as soon as what did I do with my scissors? I took them with me the other day and I don't think I returned them. Right, I'll use these applique scissors. All right, so what I mean by that, here is my lining. Move that away. Okay, double check everything looks good. Like that is a really nice sewn invisible zipper. All right, so if I was doing a second fitting, I know for a fact I'm gonna keep the lining on there because I have yet to attach the lining. All right, but if I was doing another fitting where I wanted to see if it needs to be let out some, I may cut away only half of this, I may leave all of this, but this client is pressed for time, so I'm gonna leave a little seam allowance in case it needs to ever be adjusted for her, but essentially I'm just cutting it away. I don't want the bulk of it on there. So you have one side, that's enough. I mean, it's enough for if it pulls, it's enough if later she needs to let it let out for some reason. I'm gonna do the same up here, cut it away, leaving my lining part alone, and I'm just going to gauge this and trim away all this excess fabric. Now again, if you're unsure of your skills, I would not cut this until the customer has retried it on to ensure that the fit is good. Okay, so I have that. Now comes the part of we're going to attach the lining. Now to do this, yeah, like I overstitched this just by a hair. That's going to be turned in. And it's going to be like that essentially, and the same thing with the other side. Alright, so I have my markings, but what I'm going to do is lay this flat, and we're going to turn this in. And I can do a couple base stitches here, and then that way I have it in place so I can grab it through the side seam and attach it. So that's what I'm gonna work on both sides, basically basing it where it needs to go. As you can see, this tag is now gonna get cut off. I'm gonna take this apart. Let's grab a seam ripper, and we can scoot this tag over and take one side off just to get out of my way, because if I take it all the way off, I have a bad habit of not reattaching tags. So if I leave it half dangling, it'll be a reminder that it needs to be restitched, and I'll take out the part that's not in my way later when I get ready to reattach it so I can reposition it. Okay, alright, and we can hand stitch that, that's not a big deal, or you can do it before. Now I have the room to take up as much as needed on this. Okay, and you don't want to do too much, but you want to do the right amount and get it to lay nice and flat. Okay, and honestly you can unzip this. Let's unzip this, and this will give you more room to work. Alright, so here we go. Alright, we have this whole panel laying flat. Here's that opening for when we're going to make the side seam, taper that and make our adjustments. But here's where the real scenario is. So like this part gets tucked in behind there, and you're gonna literally start stitching. And this, the inside doesn't need to be as close to the zipper teeth, and you don't want it as close. You don't want anything catching in her zipper. That is a good ruin for a day. So I'm just marking where it's gonna go, getting it lined nice and flat. Okay. And it may take a little adjusting to get it right. Like, I'm gonna pull this back out so I can get this exactly right. There we go. So I don't want it bulky. I don't want it too tight because I don't want the fabric pulling. Look at that, looks good. And I'm just putting a couple of pins on here. All right. And same. Just gonna get that as flat as we can. All right. And essentially, we get to this point, that is pretty good. See how well that looks? We're just checking it. Alright, I have that where I need it. What I'm gonna do is I can do some tacks to where it needs to be lined up, so then when I go inside, I know that my lining is where it needs to be. Let me see what I do with that needle of mine. Okay. I always tend to lose them. Here's one. So what I mean by that is, like, I know this is a nice crisp edge. All I'm gonna do is go in where that edge is and do a little basting right close enough to it, so at least when I know I stitch, I'm stitching right where it needs to be. Alright, and this is going to keep everything lined up. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to baste the other side. And then I'm going to change my battery because my battery's dying. And then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and show you how we're going to stitch up the zipper from that opening that we left right here at the side seam. Okay? Okay, so as you can see, I have basted both sides of the lining. Let me flip this around. Got it based. Woo! My camera just... Okay, so I have both sides of these based. Let's see. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it unzipped. I'm just double checking everything looks great. Everything looks good. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to find those side seams that need to be taken in. There, look. Okay, so I opened up the zipper. We're going to go for the side seams. Let's see. Which are here. I'm going to reach in. We're just going to pick whatever side we want to start working. I'm going to reach in between the lining and the outer fabric of the bodice. Reach my hand in there. I can go all the way up to the zipper top. Going to grab that corner and essentially pull it out. I'm turning it inside out. Alright. All the way, because I need access to the zipper. All the way down to where I am going to do those alterations, which is this corner. So here is where my basting stitch stops. I'm messy with pins. And then it's where the end of the bodice meets the skirt as well. So this is the part that I'm taking up. You see all this excess fabric right here? That's where I'm at. So my little basting got caught right there. I could just clip it. And I was hand basting it. Okay. And it's still marking where I need it to be. I just need to open that up so I can release and get to the parts that I need to. Alright, so what we're doing is we're essentially following our baseline here. You can get as close to it as possible and stitch all the way down. And I'm going to do that on both sides of the zipper, and our lining will be attached. Alright, let's move on to this. Move over to the sewing machine and I'll show you real quick. Okay. I still have my zipper foot on. I don't necessarily need it, but we're going to switch it to the opposite side and use it anyways. You could use a regular foot in this case if you chose to. Alright. So let me find where I'm at. Okay. Got it. So all I'm going to do is make sure everything else is out the way. And I'm going to begin stitching. Okay, I'm making sure everything is where it should be. Pulling it. And we're going to make sure, I pray that it's questionable, that we get as close as possible to our lining. I'm going to actually sew from the bottom to the top just because it's easier for me to get where I need to go. That makes sense. Now this bottom part where it meets the hemline, just try to get as close as you can as possible while not capturing threads. There we go. Yep, I'm about to switch it. I switched it just to switch it again. That's okay. I wasn't sure if I wanted to sew from the top to the bottom or bottom to top, but that is it. And remember, you don't have to be as close to your teeth this time, but close enough that your lining looks appropriate. We're not stretching the fabric, I'm just stretching where my base is. If I stitch over my base stitching, that's okay, because I can essentially just go and pluck it out. But I want a nice crisp edge on my lining. I'm making sure I'm not catching any of my outer fabric. There we go. And then we're going to turn this right side and see how it looks. Go all the way up here. We'll come correct that top after we make sure everything is right, because we're probably going to want to tack it down here. Let's see. I'm going to adjust you guys so you can see. Let's see. Okay, so all I did was turn it back right side, making sure I did not mess up the exterior. And you'll see that I can just go in here and pull away my basting stitches. And it should leave me a crisp edge like so. Okay. I'm just pulling these guys out. They don't come out. Grab another seam ripper. Here we go. And just pulling and pulling. Some of them I ran over. That's why it's a little harder to pull out than the first basting when we initially basted the zipper in place. But that's okay, they will come out. Just don't want to leave them in there because it looks tacky. So looking good. And I'm going to continue to remove it. There we go. Alright, I'm going to continue to remove the basting stitch off. And then I'm going to stitch the other side as well. And then show you what we're looking like. Alright. Okay. So. I'm trying to get my... Okay, so I have removed my base stitch. I've got my zipper in place. Everything is looking good. This is how my lining's looking after removing the base stitch. This is my outer. Remember, we still have this tag to handle. So let's do a couple of quick, a little hand sewing real quick before we move on to the side seams, because I want to go ahead and move this tag over, and I also had trouble stitching all the way to the edge, so I'm going to go ahead and hand stitch these ends closer right here, and the same thing on this opposite side. Just close those up. It's harder to get the sewing machine foot in those corners. Let me scoot my camera up a little bit so stay in frame. Okay, so those are nothing. And this time, because these are stitches that are going to stay, I'm going to use the correct color thread. Okay, so let me go ahead. So what we're going to do one more time is we're going to hand stitch this down in place so we get a nice clean finish right there, along there, and just right here. I just want it to lay as nice as possible. Okay, and then we're gonna move this tag over. Okay, so I don't lose my tag, I'm leaving it hooked on there. Let me go ahead and get my needle threaded. So we can take care of this hand stitching. And almost. Sorry, my AC is blowing. It's blowing my thread at the same time. All right. Come on. Of course, it would take me 10 hours to thread a needle. Focus. Alright, got it. Alright, I'm going to cut that off. Alright. And so I really don't want my stitches to show. I'm trying to see how far back I have to go on this. I see right about here. So I'm going to go farther back. Get You see what I'm doing? And in. I'm just capturing the edge because I'm going to do like a slip stitch. Alright. So I'm going to get this done and be right back. Should have put beeswax on my thread. That would have initially helped, but there we go. This thread, all right. Just blame it on the thread, right? There we go. And this side's almost done, and then I'm going to do the other side just like it. And the whole point of these stitches is so you can't see them, but I didn't want to leave it because I still want it to get caught and sewed. But fighting getting your foot in these corners, sometimes it's easier just to take a second and hand stitch like I'm doing. Okay, and then get this edge in there. There we go. Alright, I'm going to do the same to the other side, and then we're going to move that tag over out of our way. How good that looks. Move that out the way. We're going to have to press this too, so I'll press after I get done stitching. Here I'm just going to enforce this corner because this is one of those parts that's going to get pulled and tug on, and we don't want it to come loose on her. Alright. Alright, let me do the other side and I'll be right back. Okay, now we're going to move on to this tag. Obviously it can't be like this. Looks like I need to move it over at least an inch. So I'm going to now, since I'm ready to shift it, release this carefully without snagging the material. All right. So we are going to move it over to about there. Okay, so I pinned that in place. Move some of these dead, call them dead threads. Move some of these dead threads. Alright, and I scooted over. I'm going to make sure not to catch that extra lining because I have not cut that lining away yet, so we'll have to do that too, but make it pretty even, and all I'm going to do is go in here, only catch the lining of the fabric and sew this baby in place. I'm just making sure I'm not catching the outer fabric on here. Alright. Let's tie this off. And then I'm going to do the other side. When I touch garments, touch dresses, I initially want it to look like I have not touched the outfit at all. So sometimes clients will get their stuff and it looks like I have done absolutely nothing to it until they try it on, and that's the look that I want every time. So I'm taking my time moving the tag over and all that good stuff. Let's see, almost there. Okay, pin out the way. All right, so now I have the tag re-sewed. All right, now let's go back into our seams just to cut away that extra lining fabric before I forget. We have the tag there, we have this looking good. Let's go in through the bodice. We're gonna have to do the same thing on both sides to trim away that excess lining. I'll show you what I mean. So I grabbed it, I pulled it through, and this has to go. Alright, so we're going to start, I'm going to start at the bottom and then just trim my way up, cutting it away as much as possible. I'm going to use my applique scissors for this and just trim away. I'm initially just matching what I left for the bodice fabric. I'm just trimming away that lining. I know it's inside, but you can see the bulk once she puts the outfit on if you do not do this part. Get up here, trim this away, and I'm also going to angle the top. Okay, and then we're going to pull this back through, do the same thing to the other side. Remember, what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. There we go. Let me go this way. And do the same thing to this part and trim away that excess. Reach my hand in there. There we go. Grab the fabric, pull through. Go, trim. Make sure you don't cut a hole in the garment. You came too far. And just trim. And trim. Alright, got to the top. I'm going to cut this extra off all the way. Angle it to reduce some of that bulk at my top zipper. Let's pull through and see how's she looking. Alright, she's looking great. Oh, I did that because I did catch that the lining that I just cut away, it was attached to that. So that's okay. I'm gonna re-stitch that. So if you've seen, I had clipped that white thread. No biggie. That's why, like, I probably should have cut the lining away first before I did this. Oh well. And I could have edited it out, but I'm not going to because I want you guys to see the real deal. Alright. Now I reattach that tag again. Alright, we're good to go. And I'm just going to double check and make sure it's not in there. Alright, double check that I didn't catch the outer, and I didn't. Alright, now moving on, we're going to work on the side seams, which are initially a lot easier than the zipper. So all I'm going to do is reach in here. I have my marks where it should be, how much I'm taking in. And we're gonna go from there. I'm gonna start with the skirt that has the outer layer that has my lines. So here's that chiffon layer. I'm gonna go here, and this is a lot easier. All I'm gonna do is fold this onto itself. Let's find it. And this is just serge, and I'm gonna start here. So I'll pinch it, turn it over, find my chalk marks, match that up. Which there's one and there's one. And then I'm going to taper that out. Which you could base this. I'm not going to waste my time in basing. This is really self-explanatory, pretty much. And all I'm doing is tapering it out. Alright. Okay, I am going to serge these, but to make sure everything's aligned, it's easier to remove your base stitch. So I know that on these side seams, I'm taking an inch in, and then I am tailoring it out. So I'm going to start here. This is just so I can go back and trim before I put it on the serger, and I'm going to tailor this out. So I'll go trim this and then serge, but I'm going to go ahead and do this to all my pieces. So I did this to the lining. Find my layer of chiffon that is beneath my lining. Let's turn that. I'm just turning it right here, and I know it's approximately, I did an inch. Let's make sure, yeah, inch. And I'm just verifying that my chalk marks are right there. That's where my chalk marks are starting. Alright, and I'm going to remove my pins because I don't need them. Just needed it guide me. Make sure I'm not pulling my fabric. And we're going to sew the chiffon. Okay, and then I have my line, and it's going to match up when I go like this to reattach my skirt to my bodice. All that should match up. Alright, now I'm going to do the same to the top bodice part here. So I'm going to flip this inside out, and I'm going to initially do the same thing. I'm going to take up that on the lining, carefully sew my inch closer, closed. Alright. And this is a close spot, so I'm just going to adjust my fabric as I go sew up to the armpit. There we go. Now reaching the armpit. And I'm tapering it out. Alright. And these, when I go back, I'm just going to cut these open because these are raw edges. I'm just going to cut right on the seam, and I'll be able to press it. Now we have to do the outer layer of that. See how that looks? Looks good. Do the outer layer. Here we go. And I'm gonna start this one from the armpit. Make sure my fabrics are nice and flat. And then I know I have to taper it out to an inch. Make sure this is lined up. Make sure I don't have any fabric puckering. Okay. Avoid puckers. Alright. And that looks good. And check it. I'm going to check it from the front. So this is the inseam. It's where I gradually changed. Turn it this way. And that's where I gradually changed. Alright, I'm going to do that to both sides. And I'll be back. Okay, now that I have all that taken care of, I'm just going to go and serge the skirt of the side seams of the skirt before closing up where the bodice and the skirt meet. That's it. And I'm going to do this to all 4 pieces. That was that part. Let's find the chiffon, which is the outer skirt layer. Put my hand in there, flip that over. Okay, let's do the same thing. Make sure we don't, oops, chop any of the other fabric. And then just find the other seam underneath all this fabric. It's the seam I just did. So let's go to the other side. There it is. Do the same thing. Now let's do the lining. We are almost done with this dress. I'm going to do some final pressing when I'm done, but it's going to be about it. Put that in there without the rest of the fabric being in the way. Good. Alright, now this part, we're going to need to close up our seam. So we're going to do that. And I just have some of my bolt going to the left and some of my bolt going to the right. I'm going to serge that close, making sure my seams match so it's all pretty else on the outside of the dress. Okay. Alright, I got that. And now remember, there is some top stitching that needs to be done. Do that in just a second and get closer. I'm just getting rid of all these raw edges. Sorry, I was out of camera view. Alright, let's do the other side like that. I'm just going to take that around. Here we go. We're going to do the same thing to this side. Catch everything at once. Make sure we have all the pieces together. Alright. and get that sewed. Get rid of some of this thread out of my way. There we go. All right. Alrighty, now we're going to take it and see how it looks from the outer side. Always want to check because they're going to see the outside of the dress. There we go. And you see, once I do my top stitching in here, it will align perfectly. I'm just making sure my seams match. Alright, I'm going to get this dress finished up and show you the final result. Okay, here it is all complete. We have the beautiful invisible zipper installed. We replaced the tag where it goes. Look at that. Amazing. We did not need to add a hook and eye, so that's good. We took up the side seams. Those are the side seams. If you see a little discoloration, that's just because I just got done steaming it and pressing the sides. But they look good. They match up. Nice and beautiful. I cannot wait for her to try it on. Let me know how I did in the comments below, and if you enjoy videos like this and would like to see more or watch me on my business journey as I rebuild Tina B Fashions in a completely different other state, go ahead and follow me. Quick update, this dress has been delivered. The client has tried it on and she absolutely loved it. The fit was flawless. She actually has a waistline now. So with that being said, the 24-hour alteration rescue was a great success. Thanks for watching.